Hello? Hello? Are you alright? Hi. My name is Toriel. What is yours? And what were you doing up on the mountain all alone? Were you alone? I don't mean to frighten you. I'm sorry. I've lived in these ruins for 100 years, and you are the first human to have fallen down here in a very long time. So, forgive me if my social skills need a considerable amount of polish. I'm just concerned. You are but a child, are you not? Can you tell me what you were doing up there? Well, you're in the underground now. Do you understand? Oh, no, shh. No, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll figure something out. No, unfortunately, the walls of the cave cannot be scaled, and I do not possess sufficient magic to be able to return you to the surface from this side of the underground. What I mean by that is that the other side is impassable as well. It has a curse, a shield on it that can only be broken by a very powerful magic. You would need several monsters or humans or both, I suppose, to break through it. Your soul, yes, you've already run into someone down here before me? That's why you're all scraped up. I thought it was from the fall. I'm so sorry, child. I don't think I have any healing spells with me, but you could come back to my home on the other end of the ruins. I know them like the back of my hand. I can get there in an instant. I'm just concerned for your well-being. You're injured, and you're a child who should really not have been up in the mountain in the first place, but you don't want to talk about it, so I won't bring it up again. The point is, not everyone down here is of a hospitable nature. And, well, I guess I don't have to tell you that. And while I understand being hesitant to trust a complete stranger after being attacked by one of their own, I can understand why you'd rather stay here and wait, I suppose, for rescue. But unfortunately, I must guarantee that that is not an option or likelihood, or it's just impossible, dear. I'm sorry. No, please don't cry. There. It's quite alright. No. I see, so you... Right. Well, I don't know if that makes things better or worse. Listen, I promise that... Pardon? Understood. So, if I explain to you the battles or interactions with monsters and how to navigate them, You shall come with me and let me take care of you. Okay, that's fair. I do have a bottle of water with me. Would you like any? Wonderful, here you go. Much better, right? So, what questions do you have? Yes, well, here's the thing. Most monsters, sorry. Been a while since I've had a proper conversation. People around here, I think they're a little scared. They haven't been particularly social these past years either, so we all just sort of are friendly neighbors, but we don't talk much. Anyway, your question. Most monsters by nature are very neutral. They have very little interest in harming or befriending new people, especially humans. They don't have a lot of interaction with them since we were sealed down here so many years ago. Right. When a monster introduces itself with magic, that is not their attempt to harm you, it's not intentional. When a monster greets another monster or anybody with magic, it is an expression of their inner selves, and it is wordless communication that helps cross language barriers and cultural barriers within the monster race, because there are many different types of monsters, and many of those monsters come from specific backgrounds, and not all monsters speak English or any other human language, and many monsters are illiterate or come from backgrounds where the main languages were nonverbal. It's obviously very complicated, just like the human world. So when a monster, quote, attacks you, unquote, the aim is not to harm you, the aim is to communicate. It's just unfortunate that in a lot of cases it comes across as very antagonistic and violent. In the olden days, as you might want to call them, humans were much more resilient to magic because they were around it all the time, and they had magic themselves that they practiced regularly. But nowadays, with technology taking the place of magic in many cases, and with so little human-monster interaction, it's not surprising that anyone could be affected by magic very easily and very severely. Most of all, a small child with no magical background. Right, so your soul is what allows you to navigate these magical acts, these, you may want to call them attacks, that is up to you. I can completely understand that point of view. They do come across as that. It allows you to control remotely how you respond to that monster's, advance, social, attempt at social interaction. In which case you can then choose to, as you call it, fight back, or you can talk it out. Most monsters are just looking for some common ground. This all traces back to the using magic as a communication tool thing. Sometimes the best thing to do well, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Other times, monsters are just looking for what they need to hear, even if it's a harsh truth. It's different, not just for every kind of monster, but for every monster, period. There are plenty of outcasts in their own communities who found a new way of communicating or a new way of expressing themselves that isn't particularly, popular where they're from, and they end up moving to towns where they are a minority population, and they learn new ways of communicating, and it happens more and more as monsters move out of parts of the underground that have dropped in population over the years, what have you. So unfortunately I also find that the underground has become quite sparse, which is not very, I suppose it's just sort of difficult to face that I've been around for hundreds of years. I've lived through being put in this underground cage, as you will. And it's a little sad to see the monster population become more and more sparse between towns and cities by no fault of the humans above who put us here, but actually simply because we are becoming more and more withdrawn. And it's actually quite a tragedy in my opinion, but more water? I'm so sorry, my child. I sound so dire and macabre, and I promise I don't mean to be. I really have lost my communication skills in all these years, especially since you are a special case. Yes, very special. Well, what else can I tell you? Colors, okay. Colors. Your soul's color is the reflection of the trait either you most embody or you most value, usually both. Some people have mixed souls. This is not quite as rare as many people think, but it's more common in people who have had strong magic lineage where the magic power itself hasn't died out over the years, but the practice has. And then people with singular color souls have mostly only responsive magic, which means that they can't use magic above ground in the human world, but when they are exposed to magic auras, which they would be if they were in the underground with monsters, that is when their power would become strong enough to also respond with magic, or at least wield it. Most souls aren't capable of using magic entirely on their own. They usually need a conduit, some kind of weapon or baton or flag, something representative of themselves, much like the magic spells are for monsters. There are many different color souls, many different shades and hues and tints. All monster souls are white, however, because we are creatures made entirely of magic. Magic is represented by the color white. In our society, we are all white souls because we are all pure magic. Now, that doesn't mean anything for our personalities. Many monsters are able to use colored magic, but it's not because of their soul, it's because of their cultivated personality, their learned experiences that form over time rather than from birth like it is with humans. So humans will have different colors of souls, sometimes more than one at once, but monsters will always have white souls because they are pure magic. Mm-hmm. So, what color? Okay, and would you say it was darker, lighter? Right, and what would you say the base color is? Would you say it was like the purest version of that color, or would you say it was leaning more to one or the other? Like with pink you can have, no, let's see, purple. With purple you can have more of a reddish purple or more of a blue purple, or you can have like a pure purple, which to some people may look a little more pink, but it's when you have exactly half orange and orange. I lost it. I'm sorry, I laugh at my own bad jokes. I don't mean to be off-putting. But if say the purple is like 50% red, 50% blue, it's like pure purple, even if it doesn't necessarily look like what we think of when we see the color purple. So would you say you have sort of an even-keeled soul color, or do you think it's sort of leaning more to one of the base colors? Right, okay. So that soul color is, I believe, oh, it's been so many years since I've talked to a human with that soul color. You know what, I might have, do I have a book or something? I'm not sure, let me look. I think I carry one on me. It's not even really a book, really. It's more of like a collection of scrolls, but we'll see what I can find in here. Oh, where is the... There it is. I was looking for the table of contents. Alright, so... Chapter 3... Page... I know I have a band-aid on my thumb, so it's a little hard to... Oh, it's just a little cut. I didn't have any salve on me, so I decided to just cover it up so I didn't, have little tiny blood droplets everywhere. Oh no, I went to open a door and I had my hand on the door frame, and the stone was particularly sharp in an area that had been chipped out, and I just, nicked my thumb up. Oh no, really? Oh, that's the worst. I hate it when that happens. It's amazing how the tiniest injuries can, cause so much. But, well, you know what? It's not even really accurate to say blood, because monsters don't bleed, not in the way that you would think of monsters, of how bleeding works, but it was, it was close enough. I figured you wouldn't mind if I simplified it a little. I swear I had it right. Oh, I do. I'm just reading the numbers wrong. Okay, let's see. So that color appears to be... I thought it was under this one, but maybe it's under... Yeah. Okay, here you are. Your soul color is... Oh, right there. Did you see it? I know it's a little faded, so it's sort of hard to tell. So, your soul... I should say designation, I suppose. Your soul This is what happens when I talk for more than 5 minutes. I wasn't kidding when I said we're not particularly social here in the ruins. So, your soul color represents... What's the best word to use? I want to say grace, because I know it's all in monster runes, but, it's not quite that. It's like calm. Like you have, okay, say, here, the pure red soul represents determination, and what that means is that determination is what pushes you to get through life and to make your decisions and what have you. And so the magic itself is based on that will, that drive to constantly move forward and push forward regardless of the barriers in your way, and that could be a good thing and a bad thing. Also, attributes have a good side and a bad side, the pros and the cons. So for example, with the determination one, you have somebody who will never give up trying to do the right thing, or never give up trying to complete a journey or save someone's life or something. It's the drive to never ever give up regardless of how difficult things get, but unfortunately that can also go down a completely different path where someone can use their determination to achieve whatever their goal is in life as an excuse or a means to hurt others and inflict emotional or even physical pain on them. For example, have you heard the term crab bucket? It's a very old human term that was taught to me by a friend back when the kingdoms were still united. It refers to, I don't know, this might be paraphrasing, but what it is if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, they will all try to escape, but instead of working together or simply working separately on their escape, they will literally pull down other crabs in the bucket because they have this internal thing where, you know, if I'm going down, you're all going down with me. And I don't know how conscious the decision is, but I do know that it is a problem in humans as well, although it's much more complicated. And I won't say monsters are inherently selfless. They would absolutely do something similar, but it's rarer here because we don't have a choice. We have to work together to continue to survive. So for the most part, the kingdom's quite united, even despite the sparseness and the low social interaction. So with your... Sorry, I need another drink myself. I'm starting to get very dry-mouthed. There's a lot of dust in the air here. A lot of pollen, too. Oh my. Okay. So, with your particular attribute, something that you might run into with positives is that you're able to help settle conflicts or calm anxiety or just have sort of a natural calming presence for people. You might find that as an adult you're exceptional with children and the elderly and pets and you know, people who are weaker or at risk. You have a natural ability and want to protect them, whereas with, say, the cons, you may find that some people with the grace attribute, I'm going to keep calling it that because I honestly can't think of the exact word I want to use, with that calming attribute, you can also sweet talk your way past anything. You are incredibly socially conscious in more ways than one, so while you can use your powers for good and to make the world a safer and calmer and happier place, you can also use it to solely gain benefit for yourself, much like with any of the other attributes. In your case, I didn't know a lot of people with the grace attribute. You have tests of that? I did not know that. That must be one of the few forms of magic they still have up there. Really? That common? Oh. But it's just in, like, pockets? They've been talking about it on the news and so, yeah, I figured as much. Sometimes there's an explosion of a specific type of soul during certain generations, and sometimes there are sort of mini explosions of the same concept. What happens usually is it's literally a generational thing. Like, if you can think about what your grandparents stood for and fought for when they were alive compared to what their grandparents stood and fought for when they were alive compared to what you stand for and fight for when you're alive, it's based on the problems and advances of your global society. So you'll find sometimes that certain types of souls will pop up more frequently, very suddenly, in certain areas where that sort of influence is needed. It's the way the world balances itself. So that's not surprising. No, I'm actually kind of pleasantly surprised, because the few people I did know with the grace ability, they were actually very, very good people, and they were quite nice, and they were quite reassuring to be around. Yes. Oh, so yes, there are dozens of soul colors for humans. Well, just off the top of my head, have you heard the acronym ROY-G-BIV? It's supposed to resemble somebody's name. It is a way to remember the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So I could tell you the colors of the rainbow in terms of, I know that's not extremely specific because everybody sees color differently anyway, but I can pick out those ones to you. I know those ones off by heart because those are actually the first ones we used to learn in school when I was a little one, which was a very, very long time ago. Yes, so red is determination, as we talked about. Orange is bravery. Yellow is justice. Green is kindness. I used to know somebody with the combination green and violet personality, and they were a very, very sweet person, but they were they had very self-destructive attitudes and habits, and they were that friend you always worried about a little bit in the back of your head, but was also the nicest person, would do anything in their power to help you, drop everything. And it's sort of interesting to see how their personality, their two different personality attributes, their two different soul attributes sort of played in combination with each other, and yet at the same time, when it came to them personally, would often fight against each other and cause problems. And it always made me a little sad to see that, but it was also very inspiring to me when their soul colors sort of blended to create situations where they helped people at a time and in a way where nobody else could have, right then and there. So that's the upsides and the downsides to having a split color soul. Or I've known lots of split color souls. They started to get more common as time wore on, I think, because the more humanity advanced technologically and socially, the more complicated the world got, the more difficult it became to bring balance to all the different nations of the world. So split color souls became more common. I don't know if they're as common now. No? Yeah? Oh. That is true. You can only know what you've experienced and what you've been told by those you're supposed to trust. No, I know, it's not always easy to trust people just because they tell you to. That's why we're having this conversation, isn't it? Oh, don't worry at all. I'm not bothered. As much as I've been complaining about my lack of social skills, I'm quite enjoying our conversation. It's nice to finally talk to somebody else one-on-one. Right, back to the rainbow. I forgot, I'm sorry. So, blue is, here it's, the designated blue is not quite a royal blue, it's actually a bit of a lighter blue, it's like a light blue. But that's patience. And then indigo is, oh shoot, what is indigo? I know it, and it's just escaping stopping me all of a sudden? Integrity. That was it. I'm sorry, I lost the plot for a moment. But yes, it was integrity. And then violet is perseverance. So yes, the green and the violet together were kindness and perseverance. Yes. A pink soul. Well, there's about 4 different shades of pink. Which one are you talking about? Or can you describe to me the kind of pink you're thinking of? Okay. Yes, like a peachy pink. Yeah, okay. That soul, I believe, let me check my thing again, because it doesn't need to have a description, right? I apologize. I don't think I've eaten enough today, and it's making me a little lightheaded. So, I want to make sure I'm right. I don't want to give you false information. So, the peach-colored soul is down here. And that is gratitude. So, you wanted to know the pros and cons of gratitude? Okay. So, the gratitude soul is capable of healing itself and healing others. In terms of magical ability, you wouldn't get like a shield ability, you wouldn't necessarily get like a weapon type ability, you wouldn't get something like that, you would get more something like the ability to heal faster, regenerate wounds faster, that's sort of like regenerate your wounds faster, that kind of thing. The upsides are it endears you to people quite a bit, and it gives you a very optimistic outlook on life, which brings others around you to be more humble and optimistic themselves, and it can create quite a peaceful scenario in which you'd see, for example, if enough grateful people lived in a town, you would probably see fewer people with the graceful soul, because their help wouldn't be needed as much. So the grateful soul is sort of a peacekeeping and a peace-bringing soul. The downside is that they tend to be very self-neglectful, and they are very easily led and very easily manipulated. They're often those souls are often sort of associated with both an innocence but a naivete. Do you know what that word means? Yes. Oh, your French immersion. Okay. Are you enjoying that? Comme ci, comme ça? Oui? Oui, maintenant. Right. I did learn a little bit of French when I was on the surface. That was a long time ago. So, my accent is quite poor. So yes, grateful souls have a habit of falling in with the wrong crowd, becoming self-abusive, and sometimes grateful people are more apt to spread misinformation, and they're also more likely to be persistent, and sometimes even maybe you may have in a very severe case you may see someone who has almost stalkerish qualities because they feel indebted to people who bring out their gratefulness, and it can cause huge social rifts and cause them to become very isolated, and it can turn them very bitter, and that's one of the most easily corrupted souls, I would say, is the grateful soul, because so many of its related attributes are socially positive in influence, and unfortunately that needs to be balanced with a lot of self-love that just doesn't tend to be there. So that's very unfortunate, but its powers and its benefits shouldn't be undermined either because they are quite strong. Hot pink. Hot pink is, if it is what I think it is, but I think I'm wrong. Keep in mind this book is like, oh my gosh, I knocked over a rock. Everything echoes in this chamber. I apologize. Yes, this book is hundreds of years old, so because it's not where it's supposed to be in the book, so I don't know. Some of these scrolls are out of order. I keep meaning to reshuffle the pages, and I have just not gotten around to it. My dwelling's rather large, and I clean it at least once a week, usually twice a week. Not much else to do. I bake a lot, so I'm usually in the kitchen. I bake mostly for myself at this point, which is why I have a very generous amount of fat on my body. Oh, you're too sweet. Okay, hot pink. Concern. It also lists fear, but I don't know if that's really accurate. Let me look at the back for a second. Okay, so from my understanding, the reason fear is there is because there was such a strong correlation in the case of most of these people born with concern hearts, that concerned souls rather, that it sort of became a secondary classification, which does happen sometimes with some souls, where there's a lot of argument as to what the most accurate word for it is, and if there's not enough of a consensus when a new color, new soul color is found, they will tend to put like the closest to most popular. If it's like an even 50-50 split, it's very hard, and they'll usually try to find a third option that everyone can agree on, or that at least a majority can agree on. But they'll put the most popular idea first, and then they'll have a secondary one listed, even if it's not. If it's, I think the classification board's at 25% or over. But that was so long ago, I can't tell you for sure, child. I cannot. It has been too long. But no, it's fine. It's just a bit of dirt here. There you go. See? Right. So the caution or concern or fear soul, however you prefer to put it, this soul is actually quite powerful, and it's not very common. But its main abilities involve, again, it's another one of those very socially effective souls, where you'll find a lot of the power has to do with social influence. For example, you'll find a lot of people in politics have this soul color, and it is because either they have a great concern and love for the people around them, that they want to put themselves in a place of power where they can help people more often on a wider scale. But you can also find these people who are in it for themselves, and they'll use their fear, part of their ability, to spread misinformation and lies, and and dirty secrets and whatnot of their opponents, and instill fear in their constituents so that they will secure votes, things like that. On a smaller scale, you can find someone who uses their social knowledge, their knowledge of social justice and whatnot, along those sort of lines, like law and human rights and monster rights, I suppose, way back when. And they will use this to teach future generations about how to spot when somebody is trying to manipulate you or lie to you, and teaching them when it's okay to be second-guessing another person or second-guessing yourself, as opposed to simply having poor self-esteem. It has many ups and many downs. It's a very complicated soul, actually, looking at it. Like I said, not many people have that soul, so it's very rare. I've never actually encountered a concerned soul until I think right before my wedding. I bumped into somebody that happened to have that soul. And I didn't even know who they were. I had no idea. They were just like somebody who was in the same shop as I was. I was in, what was I doing? Oh, I was ordering the floral arrangements. And I didn't talk to them for very long, but they seemed very, very nice. And, I never saw them on TV or anything, so I think they were just like an average Joe. I think, is that, do you guys still use that? Do you guys? Does everybody still refer to people as you guys? It really has been a very long time. Oh, well. No, don't worry about me. I'm just a little old lady who keeps to herself. You're a very sweet child, but you needn't worry about me. I can take care of myself. And I can take care of you if you let me take you back to my house, where I can make you whatever you want to eat. I have recently gone grocery shopping, so I have pretty much everything in my cupboards, including stuff that mostly only monsters eat. You can absolutely look through this. I can read it to you if you want, like page to page, because most of it's in monster runes. I don't think, I think there's maybe a link to a website where it's translated into human languages, but that was years ago, so I don't think their website's up anymore, which is unfortunate. But I can read it to you when we get back to my house and I've had a chance to really get a look at you and make sure you're okay. Does that sound fair? Yeah? Okay. So, you're going to find there are a lot of puzzles and, dare I say, traps in the ruins, and really they were meant to be, originally they were just defensive, because we were very, I don't know if paranoid's the right word, but concerned after we were banished to the underground, so we set a lot of traps in case people came down here to completely wipe us out, which sounds very morbid, I'm aware, but it was a reality that we thought we were going to face. We thought it was inevitable. The longer we've lived down here, the less people are worried about it. Some people still talk about it like it could happen any day, but most people are not concerned, and frankly, I am not concerned, because not all of humanity sealed us down here, and I sincerely doubt that all of humanity wants us to stay down here. You know? I will take care of you until the day you pass, if that is what is required. It would be nice to find a way to the surface, yes, but it's really not a possibility. You look a little tired, child. As I said before, I have a spare room. I did mention that before, right? Who knows? But I always keep it just in case I have guests, which is not a very common occurrence, but I like to be optimistic. Today I have a guest. Absolutely. You don't have to be afraid. I'm right here. Take my hand, child. I shall lead you through the ruins. Hold on tightly. Don't let